Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. We got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about diversity coming from the GOP. Yes, even though the GOP in a lot of states across the country, they are pushing back on DEI efforts, guess what's happening behind closed doors? They're looking to support and to recruit more diverse candidates, and they have this idea that it will help them to win the majority in major elections on the state side of things. So we'll have that conversation. Also, we're going to be checking in with Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness, as we talk about how Black women are 6 times more likely to be killed by guns than white women, and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Monday, folks. Happy Monday. Hopefully you got some rest this weekend. And if you had a chance to watch the big game, the Super Bowl yesterday, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm in my bag a little bit because they beat my Ravens, but it was a great, thrilling game all the way down to the final second. So congratulations to them. But we got a lot to talk about, and I want you to join us in a conversation. First and foremost, we're streaming live on our home network of Black Star Network. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media under Black Star Network. And we ask that you support us in the work that we're doing here by putting something in the bucket, y'all. Making sure that 2024 is a banner year in terms of our ability to branch out, to continue to provide you with content and programming that is structured, that is always thinking about you as Black America right in mind. So we want you to support us as we are opening up this digital space and having these conversations. So go to our website today, again, at blackstarnetwork.com. We're also streaming live on Amazon platforms, on Amazon News, on your Fire TV. So check us out there. We're also on Amazon Prime Video. You can find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV, the news, and or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, the news. You can certainly find us there. We're also on the Freevee network, so make sure y'all check us out there on now as we're under news, and on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can find us there. Just search for Black Star Network or find us on the Live TV, the news and opinions. Now, we're also streaming under Roland Martin's social media pages. So you can check us out on Roland Martin's Facebook page, and on Roland Martin's YouTube channel, and join us in the conversation. And big shout out to the culture crew that are on these spaces. There we go. If you're on the X platform, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're on the Facebook page, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for tuning in. If folks are checking in on the YouTube channel, I see you, Ming Leader Tasha Surge. Ming, thank you for checking in, and I hope you had a great weekend. Let's keep it going. We got Pauline Hurt is in the building. Pauline, thank you for checking in. My sister Janelle Fields is in the building. Cindy D, Anastasia Pageant, thank you so much. I saw you, Pastor Damon. Pastor Damon had his Kansas City Chiefs jersey on yesterday. Pastor, good to see you once again. The ABX girl, thank you so much. You don't like my music? Thank you so much. Ahoy to you, sir. Tiana, I see you. Pretty Brown Mimi, thank you so much. Happy Monday to you, Pretty Brown Mimi. Who else we got on here? We got Lori Parks. I see you, Lori. Thank you for checking in. We also got my man, Brian Christian, brother Brian. Thank you so much for being with us. Najee Kennan, thank you so much for being with us as well. And folks, y'all can continue to join us as we are streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube channel and Roland Martin's Facebook page. Look, it's Black History Month, y'all. We know it's Black History Month, but would you be surprised to know that maybe the Republicans are trying to cook up something during this month as they are looking at this election season? Now, we're not talking about the presidential election. They already got their person for that. But we are talking about what does it look like for the statewide elections, those elections, that down ballot elections. That's the big thing, especially if the Republicans are looking to take over the House in this upcoming election. And that is one of the one of the major priorities outside of the presidential race, and getting that message out there and supporting their nominee, Donald Trump, and looks expected. Let me just say this: expected nominee of Donald Trump. But I'm gonna share with you. I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I'm gonna share with you how the Republicans say one thing in the public, do something else in private, and how it affects us in Black America. I want us to have a conversation about diversity of candidates as the GOP is looking to do their part to try to diversify their ranks on statewide elections. And I want to know from you, crew, will it make a difference? Because the GOP is actually trying to go after minorities, women, Black folks, and other folks. They want to try to go after minorities in these statewide elections. And more importantly, they're trying to reclaim their stronghold, reclaim their dominance in the House. So let's talk a little bit about this on the other side. Join us in the chat, post your comments, and stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Happy Monday, and thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Oh, man, we got a lot to talk about. This first conversation, of course, I want to have it with y'all because I want to get your take on this as we're seeing some shifting, some movement in the GOP, the Republican Party, especially around the issue of diversity. This is Black History Month, so I'm not surprised to hear in a bunch of different media outlets the new Republican strategy. So I'm going to share that with you. But I did check in, and I saw that we have another supporter. Man, oh man, I love when we get new supporters of Black Star Network and folks that are joining the Bring the Funk fan club. So big shout out to Tavian Crossland, bought 2 memberships, it looks like. Welcome to Bring the Funk Fan Club for Level 1. Tavian, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us that you support us out of your hard-earned dollars. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Tavian, from all of us here at The Culture and on the Black Star Network. We truly appreciate you, Tavian, for that support and donation. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the GOP. I've been seeing this, and I had to bring it to y'all, crew, because I'm wondering if this is going to be a real issue. Now, some folks would say it's a political ploy, but others are saying this is the strategy that the Republicans are taking now to win those down ballot elections. We're not talking about the presidential election. We're talking about the statewide elections, those House elections, keeping those Senate seats. We're talking about those nitty-gritty elections that some of us seem to kind of overlook. And I know my sister Corinna and others in the chat, I know y'all have been saying, but this is the real election is in the House, is in the Senate, with the House and the Senate, right? And so if we're looking at those congressional races, then we should look at those congressional races real closely because there is a strategy now that the Republicans are employing where they're looking to recruit more diverse candidates. I want to share this with you from Mr. Representative Richard Hudson, the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Let's put this first quote up, please, Lise. Thank you. Where he is, look, check this out, y'all. House Republicans are being critical, and this is coming from NBC News. House Republicans are critical of diversity and inclusion programs within the federal government and elsewhere, but here's the thing. They see recruiting women and minority candidates along with veterans as key to expanding their slim majority in November. Now, according to Representative Richard Hudson, the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, he recently listed for reporters a slew of candidates that he described as fitting the formula for the GOP expanding their ranks in November. They got a formula now. You say, well, they got a formula? They got a formula now, folks. We're talking about the Congress, right? We're talking about those congressional races. We're talking about those less politicized races, important races, because these are congressional races. They're still important. House races, Senate races, they're still important. But these races, their strategy is very interesting. Take a look at this. Let's put up quote number 2. Mr. Representative Hudson, he said, we beat 15 Democrats, and every one of those we beat with a woman, a minority candidate, or a veteran. That's really been the playbook for the last 2 cycles, and so we're using that same formula. I want to say that again now. In statewide races, in these congressional races, sending people to Congress, to the House and to the Senate, the Republicans, the GOP is looking to continue to their strategy of diversifying their candidates rank, right? They want to diversify. If you want to use a sports analogy, they're trying to deepen their bench with diverse candidates. And they're saying that the three areas that they want to touch on are women, minorities, and or veterans. So we might start to see a changing face of the Republican Party in these congressional races with women, minorities, or a veteran. This is what Representative Richard Hudson said himself. This is the formula. This is the playbook, folks. Now, here's the thing I want us to have, and I want to get your take on it. So post your comments as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's Facebook page and Roland Martin's YouTube channel. I want us to really think about this because there is a formula to getting us, and this is something for both Republicans and Democrats. So this is not a completely, Republican thing. But both parties have formulas on how to get Black voters, how to get white voters, how to get women voters, how to get LGBTQ voters. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not sure how to really take it when I know that we are a part of a formula. That if they can say, quote unquote, this has been the cycle, this has been our plan for success for the past 2 election cycles, we're going to keep up with this formula. And you start fitting or finding and then fitting people in to fit that formulaic equation. So that way they can start to win. It's a formula. Now, we often, within the Black community, within Black America, we often talk about representation. Now, I think, and this is not just related to politics, but I think that we should really start to define what true representation looks like. Just because a person is Black, is that representation? Because that was the goal at one point, right? We needed to see Black faces in different spaces, right? Black faces at the table, right? But if you look at a man like a Tim Scott, he's Black, but he doesn't fit what a lot of us have been saying in terms of the interest of Black folks and Black people in this country, right? So we even have to ask ourselves, what does representation mean to us within political parties, whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party? Now, I'm going to focus on the Republican Party for now, and then we're going to take another quick pause. If we look at how they have moved, and more importantly, if we start asking some questions about where they stand on issues, then we can start to see that even if you have a Black face, even if you have a woman, even if you have someone from the LGBTQ community or the Latino community, even if you have all of these different groups of people represented, the fact remains that these still are standing on ideas and principles that may not be in the best interest of the larger communities of these individuals, that the larger communities of the individuals that they represent, right? So we have to be very, I think this is very important, that we have to be very clear as to what we're asking for politically, but more importantly, I think we also have to be very, aware that our vote as Black folks, our vote as being a part of all of these different groups, and this is just part of America work. This is how the culture has now been. It's like everybody is a, I don't know how to say it. We say voting block, but at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, you are a part of this person. They call it identity politics, right? So, it's like, oh, you're a Black person, or you live in a certain neighborhood, oh, you are heterosexual, or you work in a certain space. Boom, this is how we're going to categorize. And we're finding that within our culture, folks, more and more of us want to be categorized, be in certain places instead of being in a space where we're like free flowing. I hope this is making sense for a lot of you. Pastor Damon, you say puzzle pieces for Farajii. Puzzle pieces, right? I love that, Pastor. Thank you so much, Brother Damon. Puzzle pieces. They just plop you in. They know what the big picture is, right? The question is, do we know what the big picture is? So they already see the big picture and they say, oh, we need this type of black person. We need this type of woman. We need this type of represent. We need this person. You have a Vivek Ramaswamy, right, who represents a certain group of people. Then you might have a Latino GOP representative and all of these different people. And you're like, oh, the diversity. Oh, they expanding their rights. But this is a formula. This is still a formula. This is still leading up to say, okay, we're going to use these puzzle pieces to create a picture for our benefit and interest. This is interesting, right? The question is, let's take a pause after this. The question is, how many of us are going to see that we are a part of an equation, that we are a part of a formula? Because some of our people don't understand that in politics it's broken down like that, that we're categorized, right? That we're organized in that way and seen by the party. So how many of our people, how many black folks in America are going to see these changes and look, not just look at them, but look through them to understand, to truly understand that we are the target of a formula? I want us to kind of continue the conversation on the other side. We got to take a quick break. When I come back, I want to hear from you. Stay with us, folks. We're just getting started here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the culture. I'm still thinking about the word formula. Welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. So many of you have been posting some wonderful, thought-provoking comments as we're having this conversation with you around this strategy that the Republicans have come out to publicly say that they are working on a formula to get women candidates, minority candidates, veteran candidates to be a part of their ranks as they're looking at trying to take some seats into the House and dominate in the congressional races. They're looking at that. And so that means that all of us and Black folks, you're talking about those communities that have been often marginalized and disenfranchised, they are going to be the targets of this formula that the GOP said they have been using for the past couple of election cycles that has garnered them some success, some wins, as a way to reclaim the House and as a way to get control of the Congress. It's an interesting thing, and I just wanted to kind of get your take on this. Like I said, I've been seeing this particular story. I've seen this in multiple outlets, and it's interesting because in 2024, it's like we're becoming less and less people, more and more categories, right? That identity politics is so strong in America, so strong, to the point where it's like you can't break out of this prison, right? So if you're from a certain part of the country, you work in a certain job, you make a certain amount of money, you are a category. If your parents are from this place, if your history and your heritage is from another place, you're in a category. Like, we have become this category all the time. And so that's one thing. And also I wanted to talk about this idea of us being the targets of a formula, and more importantly, the concern that I have, which is that for those of our people who aren't as politically astute, who may see this and say, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. Now, that's certainly their choice. That's certainly their choice. We're not going to, interrupt or intervene to say, hey, you shouldn't be this and you shouldn't be that, because I don't know your personal experiences. I don't know what's really, really important to you. I can only assume, but you know what they say about assuming about anybody, right? So it's up to you to make that decision in terms of who you're going to ride with in the election. That's totally up to you. But the thing that I can do is at least make you aware, help you to understand the thinking and the behind the scenes strategies that are being put to play here right now, and to try to get our vote. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Now, let me just share with you what y'all have said. And then I'm going to explain something. Some of you might have actually heard this because this happened back in January, but I think it applies to this conversation today. Let me see here. Here we go. Electric. You say, can someone explain how Republicans can pass laws across America to prevent Blacks from voting, then do outreach to Black voters? The okie doke, excuse me. Yep, that's what's happening. So you have in this report from NBC News, let me just share this with you, Electric. In this report from NBC News, Republican lawmakers in at least 17 states have proposed some 36 bills. So you're talking about 36 bills to restrict or require public disclosure of DEI initiatives, according to an Associated Press analysis. Republican lawmakers in at least 17 states have proposed some 36 bills to restrict or require public disclosure of DEI initiatives. And we're finding that in a lot of those states where those Republican lawmakers are, they're shutting down DEI. They're shutting down this idea of diversifying the workforce and diversity in schools and all of these things. And we've been talking about it. But then at the same time, they want to work to recruit female and minority candidates as they are putting forth this criticism of diversity programs. Interesting. So, Electra, to your point, you're absolutely right. It's crazy, but guess what? Somebody is going to fall for the okie doke, right? Somebody is going to fall for it. I appreciate you, Electra, for posting that. All right, let me see who else we got here. You don't like my music. You said if Tim Scott is going to vote against voting rights, what good is token representation? I think that's an excellent point. What good is token representation? So that's why I even brought it up there in my opening, you don't like my music, that we have to be very clear as to what do we mean when we say representation. Is it just physical representation, or is there something deeper that we have to assure folks that saying, look, yeah, it's not just about being black. I mean, yeah, that's one thing, but now you gotta like add some more substance to that. Back in the day, it's probably easier to be like, we need a black face at the table. Now, you gotta put some conditions on blackness. So for those individuals being at the table, great point. Janelle Fields, my sister, you said it's all about plausible deniability. With women candidates, they can't be accused of trying to control women. With veteran candidates, we're supposed to forget Trump disrespecting the military. Come on, excellent point. Plausible deniability. I really like that, Janelle. Thank you for posting that. But you're absolutely right. This is the okie doke. Going back to what Electric said. This is the okie doke, right? And I mean, this is the same. And I know some folks probably get mad at me when I say this, but this is the same type of standard that we have to apply to the Democrats, that they don't get into window dressing. Y'all know what that is, right? Political window dressing, when you put people out there to be seen, but guess what? Mannequins don't talk back. They don't get to a word about how they are being used. They are just dressed up to appeal to the wandering eye for those who are walking past the window. But they don't get the chance to be heard. They don't get the chance to determine what their future is. They can't speak their interests, right? And at some point, when that mannequin is no longer needed, they can be taken down and broken up. So we do have to see that. All right, look, let me just do this very quickly, and then we're going to take another pause. I want to drop this, and then I want y'all to marinate on this. I want to play for you. Remember what Matt Gaetz had to say? Some of you might not know, but this is Representative Matt Gaetz out of the state of Florida. He talked about how, and this is from January of this year, he talked about how the MAGA movement is growing and how it is appealing to a lot of different voters nowadays. And I know some of you in the chat have shared that, oh, Trump ain't so bad. Let me just share with you what Matt Gaetz said in this interview from last month. Take a look at this, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
There is a relentlessness and a persistence in the Trump campaign that I think really emerges out of the candidate himself. In Iowa, this victory was so huge, and really it was a testament to the resiliency of the Trump voter, because you had the worst conditions possible, historically challenging weather and ice, and these folks came out and voted overwhelmingly for the president. I met with a lot of those folks. This is the blue-collar realignment of the Republican Party, and what I could tell you is, like, for every Karen we lose, lose. There's a Julio and a Jamal ready to sign up for the MAGA movement, and that bodes well for our ability to be more diverse and to be more durable as we head into not only the rest of the primary contests, but also the general election.
Well, also, when Trump was president, it was better for all people, not just people of certain races.
For every Karen that they lose, they're willing to, lady, oh man, I want to see how many women are going to vote for Trump in this upcoming election. The man said for every Karen that we lose. And when he said Karen, y'all know what he's talking about. You're talking about suburban white women. You're talking about white mothers. You're talking about women who call the cops on black people too, Karen. I think that was an interesting piece. But this is from last month. For every Karen that we lose, there's a Julio and Jamal. Julio, Latino voters. Jamal, black voters. I'm going to just let y'all marinate on that. Because the Republicans are serious about this now. They're serious, and they make no bones about it. They make no bones about it. And the question becomes, how are we going to handle it? Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue to have the conversation as we look at this strategy from the GOP and diversifying their ranks and not diversifying their ideas or their principles. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen Shrooms.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about how the GOP is planning to diversify their ranks. They're looking at a playbook that they've used in past election cycles of supporting candidates that are women candidates, supporting minority candidates, and supporting veteran candidates in this upcoming election cycle. This is coming from Representative Richard Hudson, who is the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, who said that there are a number of candidates that he described as fitting the formula for the GOP expanding their ranks in November, because he's looking at these down ballot elections. He's looking at these congressional races around the country. And he said that we beat 15 Democrats, and every one of those we beat with a woman, a minority candidate, or a veteran. That's really been the playbook for the last two cycles, and so we're using that same formula. Now, how many of us, knowing that we're being targeted and used as part of a formula, are going to just walk our way onto the silver platter? Right? We're being used we're being used. We're being used. I mean, y'all saw it. You saw how Tim Scott just completely denied his own self-dignity and self-respect in that moment with former President Donald Trump. Even after he was insulted by the man, just groveling. And it's sad and it's hard to watch, you know? But even though if that moment didn't turn you off, there are still elements of this party, of the ideology, of the philosophy. It's not even just about the Republicans, but it's just the fact that we and black folks in this country, we got a lot of interest. We have some serious issues on the table. We got all of these things that happen. And then you have what we just played, Matt Gaetz talking about, for every Karen that the MAGA movement loses, there's a Julio and a Jamal waiting to join the ranks. Okay. Y'all know what this, I'm just pointing it out there. I'm just doing my job, y'all. Just doing my job. Cindy D, you said we are political pawns in a game of power chess. Woo. Woo. Political pawns. You are absolutely correct. And we don't have to be. We should be the drivers. We should be the ones dictating the agenda as citizens of this country, as constituents. The party should be driven by the people, not the party driving the people. Y'all get that? The people are pushing the party in a certain direction, not the party pushing the people in a certain direction. And as I was mentally preparing to have this conversation with you, it feels like we're in a space where we're becoming less and less knowledgeable of all of these things that are happening around us. And this is priming us to be like zombies that can just be shaped and just taken in any direction by someone that may look good or who has good sounding words. And I mean, this is the smallest things, And we're in this time now. And I was watching the Super Bowl yesterday. I'm not going to get too deep on this. But the thought came to my mind, crew, that I'm going to keep it real. This thought came to my mind. We work so hard to not be a commodity for this system, for this country that we're in, right? Because we came out of chattel slavery. But now it's like everybody wants to be a brand. Everybody wants to be a product. Everybody wants to be a commodity. As long as we getting paid, sign me up. I want to be a commodity of capitalism. I want to be a commodity of popular culture. I want to be commodities of brands, right? Everywhere. And we're seeing it more and more and more. You know, just very quickly, just to kind of go off on what we saw yesterday. This is just my view now. Y'all can certainly disagree with me. But did you see how many hip hop artists were in commercials and all of this stuff? This was like a heavy celebrity oriented like ad campaign. I'm not saying that this is some conspiracy. I'm just saying like our people, our culture, our brilliance has been commodified, packaged, put some glitter on top, throw a bow on it, and boom, you got Black America. And as a result of that process, it appeals to those of us who are not in those spaces, right? But we essentially become these commodities. And we were products when we were enslaved. When our ancestors and our great-great-great-great-grandparents were enslaved, we were products then. And now it's like, we want to work to be a product now. And now even in the political space, we find ourselves being commodified, categorized, and just targeted so that way somebody else can get further along on their agenda. Somebody else can gain from our inhumanity as a product. Am I going too much? I must be doing something. Official Sanika, you say shucking and jiving for a league that doesn't give a crap about Black bodies. I'm just saying, it's not just the league, though. I hear what you're saying, Official Sanika, but it's not even just the league. This is just the caring culture. The caring culture. So this culture permeates even in the political space where we want to become a product of politics, right? We're not driving the product. We're not driving the system. We're not changing. We're not being encouraged to be thinkers of government. We're encouraged to conform. And every day, let me just share this with y'all, crew, and then we're going to kind of wrap this thing up. Every day, we have to be conscious and intentional and deliberate to not conform to the popular thing, because we have to think, because all of this other stuff is happening around us. And we are now at a precipice in this country where the thinkers, those who want to, who see something, now we have to stand. We're at this crossroads. Like, oh man, what do I do next? We gotta think. That's what we gotta do next. We gotta think. We gotta determine. We gotta make something. We gotta make something for ourselves. And I'm not just saying that in terms of Black people. I'm saying as American folks, as citizens of this country, we can't allow certain things to just, influence us to the point where we lose our humanity, we lose our soul. And that's what politics would do. And now you become this other thing, this otherness, as some writers have called it, right? You become a Julio, you become a Jamal in the eyesight of a political party who don't see your humanity. You just become this, oh, you're just this voting block. Oh, you're just this statistic. Oh, you're just this piece of data. And our humanity is lost in the process. All right, y'all. Let me just say this. Who else? Anthony Moore. You said, duh, when have we not been commodities? Literally since prior to slavery. I hear you. You're absolutely right, Anthony. You're absolutely right. Gregory Carter, you said you're being used by the Democratic Party as well as Republican. That's why I included them both. Right? We got to, we gotta bring the smoke and distribute it evenly, Gregory Carter. Thank you for posting that. Lydia Brown, you said, wow, Farajii, I see where you're going, business or show. Absolutely. And so because of this, we have a responsibility, as I close out, We have a responsibility, y'all. We understand that these strategies and tactics are being used, but you got to make sure that you educate yourself. You got to keep you know, the old street terminology, keep your head on a swivel, right? That's what we used to say, right? But you got to make sure that you are working and say, okay, how am I making sure that I'm kind of like pushing back on this place that where we just say, okay, we're going to just go along to get along, or we're going to just get swept up in the cultural moment of the day and versus seeing the big picture of what's really going on. All of these things, you have to work to keep your sanity in this, and especially when it comes to the political space that we find ourselves in. There's so much polarization. There's so much vitriol. There's so much, I mean, it's just getting more and more toxic. And we don't have time today, but I'm going to share with you an article that I read over the weekend about how one writer said that those of us who want to see a different America, whether you're Black or white, Asian or Latino, we can't disengage. And I thought this was an interesting argument because and the writer said it's easy to disengage politically, to say, you know what? But the writer was saying, if you disengage, the zealots win. I said, oh, it stirred up a little something in me, y'all. I was like, oh. So we got to work through some things, right? We definitely have to work through some things, but I wanted to put that out there. Let's keep that on our minds as we move forward. We got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about health and wellness. We're going to be checking in with Dr. Bridget MD for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. So stay with us. That's coming up on the second half of the show here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. And it is Monday, folks. So, every Monday we do our due diligence to make sure we kick off your week in a great way, talking about health and wellness. And so let's give another installment of our segment, Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget, MD. Good afternoon, Doc. How are you?
Good Monday to you, Farajii. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm going to be seeing you a lot today.
You are so
I don't know.
I had a moment of
like, what do you mean? Hey, y'all, make sure y'all tune in later on this evening. Let me just throw this out there at the beginning. Later on this evening, Doc and I are going to talk about healthy relationships only, yes. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, that's it. Yeah. There you go. There we go. We're going to talk about relationship stuff.
Yes.
I know
yes.
Doc, I know Doc
on YouTube, on Dr. Bridget MD, or on Instagram. But yeah, come in and hang out with us. And it's a great opportunity to really push people to expect better, better from their human counterparts, as well as from themselves. So this will be a good.
Woo! Can't wait. All right, now let's talk about a little bit. Do we want to talk about Super Bowl? Do we want to?
I think we should, what is it? It's the most watched. It's probably the one thing that more people have in common across this U.S. than anything else. So
over 100 million people watched the Super Bowl yesterday.
Yeah. So definitely.
That was crazy. All right. So outside of some of the pop culture moments that happened yesterday, from Taylor Swift to Beyonce announcing her new album through a Verizon commercial.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
That was slick, and I'm sitting there like, oh, okay, she said something, and my daughter is going crazy. My one in college is texting like crazy. She's dropping music. I'm like, I watched it. What are you talking? Slick, but if you're in the Beehive, you saw it and you got it quickly. So
she's coming out with that country album. She is coming out with that country album next month. So I got my take on that. But I don't want to delve into it right now.
Okay,
I definitely got my take.
Say one thing.
I don't think that we should applaud capitalism. People say it's genius, it's brilliant. And even I had me and my team member, Lisa, she was like, Farajii, Beyonce is a genius. I'm like, I kind of beg to differ.
Okay, that is not at all what I thought you were about to say. So,
that's why I said it's a different conversation for a different time.
Totally different conversation.
Totally different conversation. All right, moving on. All right, but during the Super Bowl, there was that moment where the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, he was taken out of the game for a moment by head coach Andy Reid. And as a result of that, There was some physical aggression that Kelsey showed toward his own coach. Kelsey, a younger white male. His coach is an older white male, Andy Reid. And it just blew up the internet. Everybody was talking about it, and this is interesting. I wasn't even thinking about it when I saw this moment, but then I don't know, maybe this was the lens that I should have looked at that moment through. Where people say, and this was based upon Antonio Brown. Y'all remember AB? AB, who was controversial to say the least. He put something out, said, if I would have done this, I would have been put out the league. Essentially saying, if this was a black player doing this to his own coach, he would have not been allowed to play. And so the hashtag of white male privilege came up as a result of that moment. And there was a lot of discussion about that moment, right? That people said, well, it could have been just his passion. It could have just been his, he wanted to play that bad. And other folks said, no, he got physical. He not only got into the face of Coach Andy Reid, he kind of shoved him as well, losing where Coach Reid lost his balance. And Coach Reid said, it's nothing. It's not a big deal.
Right.
But what do you make of that moment? Should we look at it through the lens of white male privilege, or is this just an athlete, just kind of showing his disdain for that decision?
I think sports has its own culture. And so some of the rules that we have to follow in the rest of society sometimes gets a little bit different within the sports culture, right? And so Andy did not seem that phased outside of stumbling a touch, right? So he didn't appear to be threatened. I think he expects his players to be, whether it's passionate or whether it's, if you're not aggressive, if you don't have, if you don't work within aggression on the field, you probably aren't lasting that long in the game, right? So I don't think the behavior was that odd. On the other side of that, Travis Kelce has a history of impulse control issues. Okay. And so does that mean that he was out of line? He was out of line no matter however you look at it. Okay. Because he's supposed to be a leader on the field. He's supposed to be a leader for his teammates. And obviously the coach is the leader of everyone. And so he was out of line no matter what. But was this a passionate move? Was this a person that already has issues with aggression and was expressing that? But for whatever reason, Andy didn't seem that threatened. The aspect of would this have been something different if it was a black player? I think it comes down to the value of the player. And to be totally honest with you, I think if you're talking about someone who is, the quarterback and the number one player on that team, you get away with a lot more than the guy that tends to ride the bench. Okay. So black or white, I think that is a big, big part of this regardless. And obviously, Travis is a big player on the team. So, but was it appropriate? No, but he didn't seem horribly fazed by it either.
But it was, and some people would say, even outside of the racial component of it, the potential racial component, that it was a form of workplace bullying. That it could open up that part of the conversation that, that certain individuals in the workplace, of course, this is the sports, but at the same time, you're talking about athletes, and these athletes aren't always the most cool, level-headed individuals, right? Like, even regardless of them making millions of dollars, at the end of the day, they're human beings just like you and I. They have emotions. They can get out of control. So some folks are saying this is a form of, this could be very traumatic. And as you mentioned that, he kind of has a history of that. And this is not the first time that he kind of ran up on his coach with this. And to make things even worse, some people are saying, Taylor, this might be a red flag that he is abusive. What's your take on that? The psychological impact of somebody bringing that type of energy to the workplace?
But we're not talking about the office. The coach is expecting intense players with intense emotion. Keep in mind, he's supposed to stay on the field and not come towards him. But if you're very even keeled or mild mannered or what have you, you're probably not at that level, to be honest with you. I mean, there's and I'm not saying all football players are these overly aggressive people. Impulse control is an issue. Okay. And that's kind of something that we're seeing with Travis Kelce. He had issues in college. He's had issues a couple months ago, I believe, even with something similar. I think it needs to be addressed because he's, like I said, it's obviously being seen and now it's being talked about. But I don't even want to get into should Taylor be concerned. I don't even want to go there.
No, we don't have to go there. We're not going there. But just talking about the behavior, because I'm just saying, like, anger management is a huge issue in America right now.
It is.
Like we're finding ourselves, a lot of people are angry. Right. And we act as if it's not a problem. We act, oh, no. No, we have to start to, and I'm not saying we have to let it out and be just violent and destructive, but we should at least acknowledge the fact that people are angry today and we don't know how to handle that anger when it comes to our relationships, whether it's with our coworkers, family members, our intimate partners, whoever the case may be, but we just don't know how to handle certain things like that.
I agree with you, but I will tell you, show me this behavior at the house, show me his behavior at a bar, show me his behavior with, like, football is a beast of a game.
Mm-hmm.
You, like I said, you cannot expect the behavior on the field to be the same behavior that he has at home. He would never be where he is. So I don't know what he's like off the field. Okay. And for some people, there are two different people. They're very much, going back to the Beyonce thing, she talks about the person, the persona that needs to come out for her to go on stage is a very different person than at home. I'm going to possibly give Travis the grace of saying, I would like to think the person that shows up on that field has to be a different person than shows up at home. Does that make his behavior right? No, but that is a part of the game. And so should he be doing this? No, but is it potentially a part of what football and the culture of football?
Yeah.
To a certain extent, yeah. But trust me, if he was a less valued player, so these are dollars and cents at this point, right?
Yep.
If he was a less valued player, he would have absolutely been kicked out of the game or had to ride the bench for a while because they were not going to tolerate that from him. His behavior is allowed at this point because of the value of his positioning and who he is as a player. Not right.
And that's what that's the privilege right there.
That's the privilege.
That's the privilege right there.
Right.
It's
because
not
I think
about him being a white male.
If it was a black man and he was the most valued player on the team, I think it would have been like, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly, Karen, my sister, you said Coach Reed said Travis was upset and asked to get back on the field due to a mistake by another team member. Coach Reed said Travis has done this before. He is okay with it.
It's a part of the culture. I mean, like, you look at sports. Men slap each other on the butt all day.
Right.
I'm always very confused by this. So this is why I bring it up. All day. Not a problem. But if you're at the office and you did a good job, that is not going to fly. There's aspects of the culture that are acceptable in the game that are not acceptable in real life. And that also might be the amount of aggression that is needed to play the game. So...
Hey, look, if Coach Andy Reid don't have a problem with it, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you got to say, well, if that person who was in that situation didn't have a problem with it, then who am I to say it's a problem, right? Like,
and he's experienced. He could have said you're out, and that would have been it. Like he's I don't even know if he was even all that as intimidated as one would think, because these are his, I don't want to say his children, but these are his brothers in this game. There's a love on the field between players and their coach.
Yeah.
That is, I have grown men still talking about their coach from high school, college, whatever it may be, because there's a relationship there. So although it looks intimidating to us, it's kind of like the person that has like that 200-pound dog and you're like, oh, hell no. Oh, it's a monster. And that's your baby. That's your puppy. But he's like humongous, right? So I think it all depends. It's the relationship that they have. And at this moment, I trust that relationship.
Lydia Brown, you said it shows people the wrong way to react on a global circuit, especially children who play football. A lot of of course, we know a lot of Black boys play football. And you're absolutely right. I think it was just one of those moments. It was not sportsmanlike conduct. Let's just say it like that. It wasn't sportsmanlike conduct, but there have been a number of players who have done it. I remember seeing Zay Flowers in the AFC Championship. He threw his helmet. Lamar Jackson threw his helmet. I mean, when that intensity, when that emotion gets going, and you have those victories on the line, we're going to see it. But to Lydia, to your point, we still have to have control of our emotions, and more importantly, how to handle that anger, especially when it's in those relationships that we have with other people. So we will have to see if there's something made of it. Travis hasn't come out to say it. He apologized. Andy Reid is like, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And Pastor Damon, you said I live in the Kansas City. I haven't heard anything about Travis Kelce off the field for Farajii. Well, if they're okay with it, then I guess we'll just move on. Yeah. That's how I feel. We'll just move on. All right, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about Black women and homicide, how Black women are 6 times more likely to be killed by guns than white women. And in some parts of the country, 20 times more likely to be killed than white women. We'll have that conversation. Stay with us. The culture continues on the other side here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, waste $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network, and happy Monday. We are in the midst of our segment, Reclaim Your Wellness, with Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, MD, and Dr. Bridget is always bringing some stuff to us. So let me do this. Let's switch gears a little bit. We can switch gears. And I'm going to table that conversation about Black women because I want to make sure that we have enough a lot of time. So I'm going to table that. It's a very important conversation. So
we can talk about anything you want to talk about, Farajii.
Okay. All right. Well, we go. Okay. All right. No
Whatever
problem.
you want to talk about.
All right. Well, let's move forward then. There we go, y'all. All right. Look, here's the link. That's why I love this segment, man. Let's talk a little bit about a new report, a paper published Thursday in the Lancet Medical Journal that analyzed homicide rates of Black women ages 25 to 44 across 30 states, folks, that show that Black adult women are 6 times more likely to be killed than their white counterpart, according to this troubling new data. Now, this is, of course, in the United States. This data was collected between 1999 and 2020 by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's National Vital Statistics System. Homicides were classified in this study as death by shooting, piercing, cutting, and other forms of violence. Racial disparities varied among states. In Wisconsin, for example, Black women were 20 times more likely to be killed than white women as a result of homicide. Black women living in Midwestern and Northeastern states were also more likely to be killed by a firearm, according to this paper. Doc, why?
Yeah.
25 to 44 years old, 30 states, you're looking at a span of 1999. So we're talking about what? 21 years of study, and they came to this conclusion. What does that say? What does that make? Are we becoming more violent at this point? Are Black women the new target of homicides? What do you take from this?
So my very first thought is something that I've been hearing more and more and more lately, that we are the most unprotected group on the planet. Okay, that as Black women, we are simply not well protected, meaning that whether it's being valued, whether it's our experiences and trauma, that, and when I say protected, it's not just protected with your significant other or necessarily your family, but when you call the police and you say, I feel threatened. And when they come to, let's say, your home, and you're saying, I feel uncomfortable, he's being aggressive, whatever it may be. And if the police say, you're fine, call if there's a problem. That's what I mean by being unprotected. Okay. And so the fact that this is happening, and you see some of these issues are, in the Midwest, people love their guns, right? How easy is it to obtain a gun? What are the issues going on in those areas and those little pockets of the country? But the fact of the matter is we are not a protected group. And if we're not protected, then we are ultimately going to be subjected to more violence.
Wow. So this is not a conversation. Is this a conversation about gun access and that whole gun conversation? Or is this a conversation about, like you mentioned, protection of Black women, seeing Black women as being valuable enough to protect them? Like, what is this conversation? What do you think is at the root of this?
I mean, I definitely think this is a unprotected group conversation because, yes, we're talking about firearms for some of this, but we're also discussing, stabbings. We're talking about violence, with or without a gun is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, and I have, strong feelings about access to guns in this country, and what that is doing to just our entire culture. But this isn't just about guns. This is about a group that's unprotected, that when they reach out for help or they feel that they don't have a voice in a hostile situation, that no one will, that no one will listen to them, that they'll actually be blamed more than they will be protected, then I believe this is why it's happening. Because we're talking about not just that they succumb more, or Black women succumb more to violence, but that in comparison to their white counterpart.
Yeah.
Go back into that whole theme of you're the strong Black woman, you're strong. And we're in a position right now where we're butting against that and say, no, we're trying to find more of that soft girl era right now, because people have said, you're fine, you're strong, you can make it through anything. And that has left us in an incredibly vulnerable situation.
Incredibly vulnerable. And I think also it speaks to the fact that there are some level of misogyny, some level of sexism, and just outright hatred that women, and particularly Black women, are at the brunt of at this point, right? Culturally and other ways, and politically and all of these other ways. But culturally, I mean, this just seems like the conversation around gender, around, like you said, protected women, like it's becoming more and more divisive and hateful and spiteful. And it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, why do men hate women so much?
I mean, but even look at the aspect, and we've had this conversation before about access to therapists that look like you, right?
Right.
So meaning, and just the stigma around obtaining therapy in our culture. And so if there were more Black male therapists to help these men with what they're dealing with, if there were more Black women therapists and easier access to it, I think there's always the fear of, I can't afford that. But, that's an old idea, because most of the time your insurance will cover therapy now, right?
Yeah,
in the past, that was an issue. It doesn't have to be for the elite anymore. Okay.
Absolutely.
Also add in an aspect of it, that if your partner is a former incarcerated person, okay, and they experience trauma during incarceration, and I'm not saying that they succumb to violence or, what have you, but prison is violent. Prison is trauma itself, right? Yeah. And then they come out and now they're back at home with you. Though there's something called post-incarceration syndrome, and they struggle to deal with emotions and how to adequately interact with the outside world. They're not given the skill set. They're forced to learn how to behave and survive in prison, but they're not necessarily given a skill set on how now to behave on the outside world. And so something for someone that is struggling, and this is men and women, because I've talked to former prisoners that are both, that they struggle with regulating emotions because they suppress and suppress and suppress so much, because acting on your emotions in prison will literally get you killed, right?
Right.
And so you come out into a whole world of folks that are acting on their emotions, and all you know is suppress, suppress, suppress. But when it explodes, and that kind of gets back to the other conversation about hypermasculinity, when it explodes, it can explode in a lack of impulse control and sometimes leading to violence. And I say this as like, oh, the former prisoner, what have you, but the same emotions sometimes, depending on your experience on this planet, that prisoner is dealing, we all have our own prison, is what I'm saying. Okay.
You're right.
So whether you went to a physical prison or whether you are living a life where you feel imprisoned and to survive. So Black men going out into the world, working, whether it's in white collar America, and they have to make sure that they play the game right, because if they don't play the game right, who knows what they're going to say, or whether they're living in blue collar America, where again, if they're not feeling valued, if they are not being valued, and they don't play the game right, where is the safe place for that man? And they suppress all day. And they don't know how to regulate their emotions. Don't get me wrong, I'm not making any excuses.
No, I know what you're saying, but you do have to kind of look at this in the proper context and go to the root of it in order to address it. So I give that point. And there are so many complexities to this issue. Very quickly before we take our next pause, it says that according to this report, this paper, researchers they found they did not identify the causes behind the difference, but they pointed to structural racism, including poverty, educational attainment, and employment. And they're showing that states with a large share of low-income households, where people tend to live closer together, have the highest disparities of homicide rates.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to throw this out there. Approximately 45% of Black women experience stalking, physical and sexual violence in their lifetime, and an estimated 51% of Black women experience female adult homicides were related to intimate partner violence, according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So you got all of these things kind of just in here. You have the systemic issues on the outside. Then you have the things you laid out, the internal intimate partner violence on the inside, and it just creates this perfect storm where Black women are used, abused, threatened, maligned, and ultimately killed at a higher rate. And it shows that we still have a lot a lot of work to do, and it's a public health crisis. I'm going to give you 30 seconds before we take our next pause.
Absolutely. So there was a study that looked at mice. And they got one group of mice and put them in very close quarters, very poor nutrition. They're basically living all on top of each other, and then had them try to run through a maze, unable to do it. They had another group of mice where they had better nutrition, they had more space, more living area, what have you. They are put into the maze and they're able to make it without any issues at all. So then they're like, well, what did we do wrong? They flip the groups. The ones that did well before are now in very tight living situation with poor nutrition. They took the other ones. Now the ones that struggled before make it through the maze with no issue. The ones that were in tight quarters now can't get through the maze, even though they were able to do it before. So you create these high-rise ghetto, low, food scarcity environments. We're animals, okay? Meaning that if we don't get the right nutrients, if we don't have a safe living environment, an open living environment, we will succumb to our own perils, basically.
Wow. And this is such a big conversation, Doc. And I just, I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. Such a big conversation. There are so many other pieces to this, but I wanted us to keep this in mind that as we're moving forward, especially we're going into Women's History Month after Black History Month, of course. So that's going to kick off in March. So this is such a big conversation, and we'll certainly do our part here with you and others to continue to have these conversations. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. Now, when we come forward, let's talk about how some women, speaking of women, have decided to handle the stress of their jobs and their life by partaking in a few extra favors. And I'm talking about some psychedelics. I'm talking about shrooms and how it's on the rise among professional, how shroom use is on the rise among professional women. And of course, we got the cannabis expert, Dr. Bridget, here to talk to us about this latest phenomenon that we're seeing in corporate America and elsewhere. So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm checking in with Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. And let's talk about wellness, as is a new phenomenon that is just catching storm right now, which is the use of magic mushrooms amongst professional women. That's right, folks. There are women in high-powered jobs all across this country that in order for them to get through their day, they're using a psychedelic, magic mushrooms. And of course, who's the best person to talk to about
There's so much wrong that you've done in the last 20 seconds. I can't. Wait, let me get my proof and look. No, you're fine. You're fine.
So let's talk about this magic mushroom. First and foremost, for those who aren't familiar with this is a psychedelic. Mm-hmm. They may have heard about it from the time of the 60s and 70s when people were in that space, and that, I forgot the name that they called that revolution at the time. But there is now this resurgence of interest in mushrooms and using it in the terms of microdosing and using it as a way to get through the day, that there are some therapeutic benefits to this. Absolutely. And so the Wall Street Journal, they put out this article about how there are a number of women in high-powered positions, even celebrities, who have advocated for the use of mushrooms. Talk to us, Doc. What are mushrooms composed of? Why are they becoming the go-to psychedelic for women?
So it's interesting because on the brink of more people being open to cannabis use, right? So marijuana use, the other kind of underground aspects of, I want to say what people had seen as recreational drug use are rearing its head. Okay. And one of those aspects is psychedelics. So we can talk about psilocybin, which is the active component that you find in what people call magic mushrooms, a natural growing mushroom that has a component in it that can have a mind altering experience and actually more of a hallucinogen. But it can also be something like LSD, which is a man-made scientific clinical aspect that also has mind altering capabilities and is also hallucinogen. So there's other ways, MDMA, there's other ways of approaching this. But the article that was shared was really focusing on the psilocybin, the magic mushrooms itself. And what they're basically saying, keep in mind, the microdosing of it can actually be very beneficial for some of the issues that some of these high-powered women may be experiencing.
And you're talking about the issues of anxiety. You're talking about depression. You're talking about women who, as they say in the articles, to have a very busy, professional and personal life, and they don't have time for hangovers. Mm-hmm. And so they want to tap into that. But there's the other side of it, which you just spoke about, which is this is still an experimental thing. This is not medicine, right? And that's where the real concern comes in terms of the health, the health impact. What's your take on that? How should people look at psilocybin and magic mushrooms?
Well, the fact of the matter is, it can be medicine, right? So you can work with someone in states where this is more legal or more underground, depending on how you choose to go about your life, where you are doing this in a clinical setting with a trained guide, or journey guide is often what they're called, to help you work through sometimes much more severe issues, PTSD, even sometimes helping with substance abuse, eating disorders, some more intense mental health issues. Okay. So it can be medicine. The problem is that we've kind of written it off. The pharmaceutical companies kind of wrote it off. And now we're kind of returning back to this. And so the article really focuses on, when I say microdosing, these people are not having any sort of euphoric or experience or having definitely nothing, any sort of hallucinating type of experiences. It is simply giving their brain a boost. Okay. So whether it helps with your mood, your mental performance and creativity, or for some people, it allows them just to kind of be able to function normally. So there's a lot of different sides to this because we're in a high stress world with incredible amounts of demand. And we want everyone to be able to function at this really high level.
That's the other part.
Then, dealing with the anxiety, the stress, the depression, everything going on with it, and then have an issue if they have to utilize something to be able to get them there. Okay. At the same time, I feel like this is the kind of a missing link in medicine, that it is something that's incredibly natural, that when used appropriately can, I've seen work where they've worked with MDMA or psilocybin to help police officers get over trauma, right? It can help them unpack issues that are sometimes lying in their subconscious. So does it have medicinal qualities? Absolutely. Does it have social qualities? Yes. But this article is talking about people that actually are going about their normal day, and it helps them get back to a place that allows them to function and be, and to be able to go to an event without high social anxiety. That allows them to interact with their kids and feel normal. There's a lot of different layers to this, because the question is, why have we gotten so to a point in this world where this is even an issue? But at the same time, this is something that allows the high intense person to function and be able to complete their tasks.
And this past June, Doc, there was some guidance that came out for developers of therapeutic psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
The FDA noted the potential for abuse of these drugs and the need for safety protocols and clinical development. And essentially that experts say that more research needs to be done. Talk to us about that. How do you ensure, or how do women, and I'm saying, we're talking about high-powered women, that includes our sisters, Black women, and, now some sisters may be saying, oh, really? And I've come across women here in California. They don't smoke weed, but they will do some microdosing of mushrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about the safety protocols. Like, how do you ensure that this doesn't fall into an area where that woman becomes, addicted to this, or use these mushrooms in an abusive manner? How do we prevent that from happening?
So without a doubt, that can you become addicted to mushrooms? Of course you can. You, just like you can become addicted to shopping or gambling or alcohol or cannabis. That each one of these things has different levels of the likelihood of it becoming a dependency. And it's usually because you're trying to escape real life, and you're using whichever one of these modalities to do that, right? So when you're trying to escape and avoid real life, the likelihood of you becoming addicted and the likelihood of you having an addictive personality increases the likelihood that would happen. Some people
so that means the intention behind it. You have to even check your intention.
Right. My issue with any of this is self-diagnosing, right? And so whenever you are self-diagnosing, you are not objective, okay? Because you have your own opinion about your wellness, your health, your situation, what have you. And so that's where things can get out of hand. That if you're self-diagnosing, your need for whatever substance may not be clear, because guess what? You're in the formula, you're in that equation. And so your judgment might not be what it should be. So the idea of going to a professional that can have an outside look and say, you know what, this could be beneficial for you, or it seems to me that you're more likely to develop a dependency if you're overusing, and maybe, let's control how much you're able to get of this.
Yeah.
Just like if you have a shopping issue, how much is allowed in your bank account? Someone is overseeing that so that you're not just going and blowing your money every week, right? And so self-diagnosing is not impartial. I do think you need that outside person to determine whatever substance it may be, is it right for you? We use alcohol every day. Anybody over the age of 21 can obtain alcohol, but how many people have addiction because they are self-diagnosing? Oh, I need this wine at the end of the night. Well, tonight I need 2 or maybe 3, right? And because it's openly, you have open access to it, you can either use it in a healthy way so that it is relaxing for you, or you can use it in a way that now you have severe addiction and causing great harm to your body and your family.
Look, we got to take another quick pause, final pause for the show. We'll come right back and get some final remarks from Dr. Bridget. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We're getting some final remarks from Dr. Bridget, MD, for Reclaim Your Wellness segment as we talk about shroom use being on the rise for professional women. And this is very, very interesting. You know, here in LA, of course, I'm seeing all types of stuff open up here, Doc.
So for everybody else, you know, Farajii and I go back and forth with topics, you know, during the week and definitely on Sunday. And he threw this up in the chat, in our text messages. I was like, oh my God. It does need to be talked about. And it's a reality. But my first thought was like, you live in that California life, because in Ohio, that's some, but you know.
No, but you know, again, that's what I said. I'm coming across women who are working in the studios here, who are doing, you know, they're doing any type of like arts and entertainment work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to I've talked to sisters who are doing like finance work.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them in the tech industry. When you're talking to all of these individuals that are in high stress jobs, they got a great deal of demand on their time. They got families, they got all of these things, and they just looking to like, you know, gain some type of mental control. That's what it is. And it is interesting, you know. Yeah. It's like this, there's this hierarchy here, Doc. It's like, oh, you just smoke weed. And they'd be like, nah, you want to take your experience, your mind to the next level, you need some shrooms. And then it's like, oh, you want some shrooms? Let me tell you where to really get some good shrooms. And like for here in LA, you know, there are a number of places and spaces, bars, cannabis bars have opened up recently in Hollywood. Now they're including mushrooms into on the menu, so you can go smoke, do what you need to do, eat some chicken, go and just chill out. Yeah. And so, I'm wondering, you know, we could talk about the therapeutic benefits, but then there's still some pushback, some cultural pushback on the use of any type of psychedelics by some of our people. Mm-hmm. And not just beyond the safety component, but there's also the component of people are saying, are we getting to a place in our culture, in our society, Doc, where we need to like check out every so often? Like this is becoming not the exception, but actually the norm. What's your take on that as we close this part out?
Absolutely. I think that is the part that bothers me, right? I don't have a problem with doing more research and seeing where psilocybin can fit as a medicinal option. I think it's actually a great idea. I think it can do a lot and do what some of these pharmaceutical medications don't do. The problem is, in particular, like with the microdosing, where you have better performance, you have more clarity, your mood is better. And so what will happen is that you're this high-powered person. Look, you're performing incredibly well. Let's up the ante. look, you're doing better. Let's up the. Where do we stop and say, you know what? Maybe we're putting too much pressure. Maybe we're expecting too much. Maybe we need to calm this down. The problem with doing better, it's like anabolic steroids, right? That when athletes take these antibiotics, they're doing incredibly better. They can hit farther, they can run faster, what have you, and they keep pushing it and they push it. And they realize, you know what? This is set up for a very dangerous situation. And so they outlawed them, right? They pulled back. Let's work on our own physical ability to be an athlete. That is what's happening in the rest of the world. We use cannabis. Oh, we're calmer. We're more at ease. We're able to work better. Some people have more creativity, more focus. And so, wait, let's put more work on them. Let's make them work longer hours. Let's expect more creativity. And they push it and they push it and push it. To what end? To what end? So.
No, I love the way you ended this conversation. To what end? Because I think that of course, and as part of our culture, I think we have this tendency to look at the effects and not really get down to the cause. The cause is, like you said, productivity. We got to work harder, work more, right? So the country is not in a space of thinking about like a 4-day work week. Like, no, we actually want you to actually work more hours. And because there's this cultural, ethos that says, hey, if you work harder, you will be much more successful. If you work in 70, 80 hours a week, then you're guaranteed success. And guess what? Who doesn't want to be successful?
Right.
So if you're saying, well, and I've seen this craziness, people's like, man, I don't sleep. I'm always on the grind. I'm like, you're an idiot, because sleep is not an enemy. I'm sorry. If I could take a nap a day, I would.
No, honestly, this is where your body resets. It's where you process.
That's how we
sleep.
Where did we get to a place? And I'm just asking this rhetorically as we close out. But where did we get to a place where doing the natural things to keep our bodies sustained and healthy is starting to seem like we're doing damage to our body, sleeping and eating, and oh my gosh, no, you taking a rest, man, please, you got to stay on this grind because that's the only way. I don't give a damn about chasing no money over, because by the time you're 45, you're 50 years old, your body's broken apart. You can't even run after your kids. You can't even, spend time with your loved ones.
Mentally, you're shot.
You're
shot. Yeah.
We're shot. So it is, to your point, where does it end? Doc, we got to stop right there. How can people find you and about the great work you're doing? And of course, for our conversation tonight.
So tonight we are doing Healthy Relationships Only, our first time really going on YouTube. And who else will be my first guest but the Farajii Muhammad. We'll be talking about relational intelligence tonight. Come to YouTube, Dr. Bridget MD, or watch us on Instagram. That's it.
There it is. Dr. Bridget, she has a fantastic segment here on the show. It's called the Reclaim Your Wellness here on The Culture. She's our chief medical expert. She talks to us about everything from cannabis use to all the ways about healthy relationships and so much more. Make sure y'all check her out here every Monday. And more importantly, we thank her for being so good for the culture. Doc, I'll see you, God willing, in a few hours for our conversation this evening. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Farajii.
All right. Folks, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you all support us. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. Also, while you're on social media, follow me, yours truly, The Real Farajii. You can find me on Instagram and at Farajii on X as well. Thank you, crew. Fantastic show. So many of you have posted so many great things. Tomorrow, we're going to have some great conversations. I'm going to be checking in with an attorney. We're going to talk about Black engineers and so much more, so you don't want to miss tomorrow's show. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Peace.